Hi, everybody. I am Holly Celiano, and I have on my guest tonight, John Michael Chambers. And it's a pleasure having him on. For those of you who are not familiar with him, he's a songwriter, he's an author, he's written 5 books, he's a public speaker. He created a broadcasting company called the America Media Periscope, which is now JMC Broadcasting. And he is a wealth of knowledge and information out there. A lot of you may have seen his podcasts. So it is a warm welcome to have you on. And thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me here, Holly. Nice to be with you and your audience. Just one quick point of clarification, just as so we don't have legal people coming after me. American Media Periscope, which you aptly stated that I founded some years back, that was transitioned to another group, and JMC Broadcasting is completely separate and a sole separate entity from that. So I just want to put that on the record. But anyway, nice to be here with you. Lots going on. We can swim in the deep ocean of deep state evil versus light and the will of the
Wonderful.
true people.
So why don't we start off with what's really going on with the Iranian war that we are encountering right now? Do you have some background information that we're not getting on what we're reading and hearing about?
Great question. Biggest trending story among the biggest trending stories today. And quickly to lay this groundwork, to your audience, I'm not an expert in anything. I'm a student in everything, but on my platform, jmcbroadcasting.com, what I do is I interview military, intelligence, and economic experts, by and large, on very themed programming and shows. And I do my research, I frame my questions, and then I let these experts, in special operations and intelligence and military and so forth, weigh in. And so what I've learned from that and my research to now answer your question is, and I know it's a very divisive issue. I'm sure some of your followers will probably throw some darts at me, and that's okay. I'm used to it. But I'm also used to a lot of adulation and a lot of love and a lot of support because I'm speaking as most of us are, in what I believe it to be the truth. What's true for you is what's true for you, based on garbage in, garbage out. Who are you following? What are you looking at? But now to answer your question, in my opinion, what President Trump is, well, first off, I'll start off easy. I'll start off with the National Enquirer talking points, and then I'll go deeper. But the easy thing to say clearly is Barack Obama, Barry Soetoro. These are facts, folks. Don't take my word for it. Do your own homework. He loaded a plane in the dark of the night, a cargo jet, with 1.6 billion US dollars on pallets in cash while he was president, which will be unwound, that presidency and others, which we can talk about later, as a matter of fact. But Obama sent that money over there. Well, it wasn't it wasn't out of the kindness of his heart so the Iranians can help starving children in third world countries. It was to build nuclear arsenals. It was to continue to fund terrorism, one of the largest state sponsors in the world of that. One of the reasons President Trump is in there taking care of business. So, so that's the cursory answer is Obama delivered cash. We dropped bombs because that nation, big sponsor of terror, death to America. How many times has that been chanted? Even recently, before Khomeini was taken out. Thank you, sir, Donald Trump. Also, I mean, you pick your issue. I'm 67 years old. I watched what Jimmy Carter allowed to happen in the 1970s while I waited every odd day with my license plate just to get gas in the fake shortage. And because of the hostages they held for 400 something days when they took over and turned that beautiful place into a disaster and a living hell for everyone who lives there. And that's why the majority of the people, of course, mainly women, and we understand why, are celebrating in the streets. And prior to this Epic Fury, I think is the operation, prior to it being launched, we saw footage of people writing on walls in a public square, which they can get killed for. Um, President Trump, please save us, okay, in Iran. So now, of course, that we've gone in there, and I know there's death, there's destruction. That's the nature of that beast. But boy, it isn't like Cheney's war or Bush's war. 15 years in the Middle East, walk away with nothing, trillions of dollars spent, profits for the industrial military complex and those in politics. This is different. But to conclude, what I was saying is the women, we know the situation over there. And now you see them taking their burqas off
Yes.
and celebrating in joy. And same with our Iranian friends in LA are doing that here. And people are crying and thanking President Donald J. Trump and of course, all the military and the White Hats for getting this done. So what's really happening there? In my opinion, he's continuing to dismantle the global deep state syndicate, we'll call it. If you watch, we watched Venezuela first as the main operation. I don't need to repeat that. In and out, 12 hours, no U.S. casualties. Sadly, that hero not displayed, but put on display for us, if you will, at the State of the Union address that flew the chopper and was part of the rescue mission, took 4 bullets to the legs. And God bless him, he's a hero. But we got in and out of there, and that's mission 1. Why Venezuela was involved in the election theft of America. That election was hijacked and stolen. Everybody knows that. He was a drug cartel person. All the fentanyl that comes, we know why we went in there, and that was a hugely successful operation. Iran is happening now. In my humble opinion, you can expect not in any particular order, but if I were a gambling man, I would say next is Cuba.
Mm-hmm.
And boy, has that been a long time coming. And Mexico, to a certain degree. And eventually North Korea, Little Rocket Man, and then save Israel for last. That's right, Israel will be last. They're dismantling the operations that, as far as Iran goes, terror sponsor, death threats to our president, 2 failed attempts that we know of, death to America, funded building nuclear capabilities that not only threaten first to wipe off America and then Israel, but other countries in the world. So this is a very important mission. I texted Juan O'Savin last night. For those that don't know Juan, he does clandestine operations. He's been serving this nation since the time of Ronald Reagan. And I know Juan 7 years and have met him personally, face to face, numerous times, interviewed him hundreds of times. I texted him yesterday just to weigh in real quick until I get him on camera. I said, Juan, are we Epic Fury on track? He said, 100%. So turn off the fake news, people. Don't get, what they want is division. War will divide everybody. That's understood. But this is an operation. I don't know how long it's going to last. Maybe 30 days would be my guess. But what we're doing is we're dismantling the nations that have disrupted this world, and we're taking care of business because we're not just restoring our constitutional republic. It's a global defense war. By some estimates, 40 countries working with us, with President Donald J. Trump as the supreme commander in chief of this operation. I've written about this. I've discussed it with my military panels. And so in conclusion, I realize it's a long-winded answer, but in conclusion, that's what we're doing. We're restoring our constitutional republic, shredding the 1871 USS Corporation, the Vatican, London, and DC, and we're straightening all this out. And we're putting humanity back on a course correction to light, love, peace, and prosperity, and abundance versus scarcity. That's my answer to what's happening in Iran. It's not an endless war. In fact, what it is, folks, it's Trump ending endless wars. And I know you can have a field day with that as bombs drop. I get it. We'll have the last laugh.
So, with that, now people are going to hear what you said. We're going to go into Cuba and then North Korea and Mexico and, Israel.
In
So,
my opinion.
we have our 250th anniversary coming up in July. And, with the QFS and the revaluation of currencies, when you hear these other countries going to have being done what's being done in Iran, people are going to say, there's no way any of that's going to happen in a short order before the 250th anniversary, because, Trump wants to parade America as a showcase of abundance and affluence. And, we're entering this golden age.
Hmm.
So we have a lot of work to do to get all this done before then.
Great observation. I agree completely. I question it often myself, but what I don't question is that this is a precise military operation. And precise is underscored, italics, bold. It is precise. And while it's fluid, and maybe there are certain maneuvers that are made, those maneuvers are made with precision. So we'll be celebrating July 4th, 2026. I believe leaders from multiple nations will be here. It's not just fireworks. This is a liberation of humanity, in my opinion. But you're right. I mean, how? So let me address the question or the statement. How are we going to get? I didn't put a time frame on when all those other nations will be liberated and that filth taken out to make the world a safer place and to free people. I'm not saying all of those nations will be uh, taken on like Epic Fury and Maduro and Venezuela by July. But so could there? I'm not speculating. I don't have any inside information. Will there be a pause? Will we get and pick up the program later after that? Perhaps, you know, figuratively speaking, the golden age, and it means a lot of things to a lot of people.
Mhm.
Um, but I do believe we'll be celebrating. I do believe we'll be dancing in the streets. I do believe there'll be block parties in America. And I do believe that don't underestimate, and again, I don't have a crystal ball, but the term that's being used out there today is drip, 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 flood. That's the revelations, that's the reveals, that's the intel, that's the disclosure. And we see it. It's really been happening for some years, very insidiously, but the astute Q person and the astute Trump observer can see it. But to answer your question, all of this isn't going to be cleaned up. The golden age to me doesn't mean on July 5th, you know, Jesus showed up and the place is just filled with light and everything is, sunshine and lollipops and rainbows. It's a process. It gets commenced, in my humble opinion, officially on July 4th. And lastly, we are going to accomplish an enormous amount because there's things going on besides dismantling these countries. There's the Epstein release. We're getting another 40,000 documents any day now. The more they release, the worse the stuff they're releasing is. Don't forget the Wiener laptop. Will we take on how much of all of that the awakened knows about and been waiting for incrementally for 10 years for the world to catch up with us when these things are now getting caught up. Epstein's out there. Then we can comment on all the different narratives and the psychological impact it's having on people. But what I'm getting at is I believe between now and June, we're going to see a lot of change. Could we see? Now, I have to interject this so I don't lose your audience. A lot of people can say, they're already dead. They're all executed. Well, you know what? Were you there? Maybe not all of them, but perhaps some of them, yes, I would agree, in my opinion. But whether they're executed yet or not, it matters not. What matters is that we are shown the truth. And
Mhm.
that is coming, in my opinion. Gitmo alone. I have a show called Eyes on Gitmo every month with 107, Brigadier General Blaine Holt, and retired Lieutenant Colonel Matt Mack, who's helped oversee the construction of the media center at Gitmo, which is, I'm told, the size of a university gymnasium. When that gets launched, and it's coming very soon, um, you want to talk about reveals? We're going to see things, some in real time, some just being reported from Gitmo by the chosen pool that they're going to put there. This is coming very soon. So in summary, Holly, what I'm saying is we're not going to have all these nations and all these issues. You got J6, you got 9/11. I mean, you've got the hijacking of multiple presidencies. You've got the election set for 2020. You've got so many issues, and they will all be revealed and they will all be addressed in due time. So um, I do believe we'll be celebrating, but we still have many years of work ahead of us.
Okay. So let's move on then to, do you believe there's going to be an EAS, EBS, and disclosure videos? Because I have heard that there's, 10 days of disclosure videos aired for 8 hours a day showing who
Mhm.
has done what and revealing everything that we who have been involved in this movement have, gone on a deep dive in.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts on that?
When I write an article, we just released the written word, which we had years ago on our website just this week, and the article is getting traction. But on my daily now, it used to be weekend, my daily war reports, compliments in large part credit to Guardian Daniel R. that I report on camera. Uh, the we cover these issues, and when you anything EBS or EAS, there emergency alert system, emergency broadcast system, anything with that in it or anything with Gitmo, whether what follows is garbage or not, instantly gets traction. Those are hot buzzwords
Yeah.
on the Google algorithms, if you will. But I'm happy to comment on it. Do I have any more intel or information than anybody else? No. The problem with that statement is EBS 10 Days of Darkness. How many podcasters for how many years have been saying next Tuesday at 3 o'clock? You know what? They've muddied up the waters. And I don't. I think you'd be hard pressed, and probably will never find me in all the years I've been, in and out of the public eye in various ways, me ever pinning that to a day. I'll tell you what I think about it today.
Mhm.
I think it's a high probability it's coming. And that's because it emanated from Q. And Q is, for those that want to call me a Q-tard, have fun at it. If you voted for Trump, you're calling him a Q-tard too. Because President Trump, I don't know, in excess of 100 times, quite easily, has either shared memes on the socials with him in it holding a Q plus in his hand, or publishing people that were putting Q stuff out there and then retweeting that. You have the president himself doing we call the air Q
Yeah.
symbol. I don't know how many times throughout all those rallies, um, and so many other things. So President Trump is in fact Q plus. Q can be defined in part as the greatest open source military intelligence operation of our time,
Mhm.
of which I would say without that, we wouldn't be as advanced where we are today. Because the pecking order, in my humble opinion, I'll come back to directly answering your question in a second, a pecking order of command and control in this redirection of humanity, because it's us or them. It's
Yeah.
all or nothing. This one is for all the marbles, guys. This is it. You're here and alive at this very time. So, but anyway, back to what I was saying is that command and control is God, as whatever you perceive God to be, God, military, white hats, Trump, and we the people. They've been telling us all along, without us, nothing's going to happen. They have moved us through this psyop, through this information war. Yeah, we've been played. Of course, we've been played. We all have. But the white hats have played us for the good. Of course, the dark hats have played us for the bad. Thus, everyone's like, WTF? Everyone's confused. And so, what was your question? EBS, right? So, I do believe it's coming. My military panels and intelligence people that I interview on a weekly and monthly basis on our broadcasting concur pretty much the same. Um, will it be 10 days? Who knows? Will it run 8 hours a day or 24 hours a day? Who knows? I don't know. I believe it's coming. I believe it should come. The way I read the playbook before June, um, the sleeper cells are here.
Mhm.
There was a report somebody published the other day. I wish I had his name to give the credit to, but I don't, because I just came across the guy for the first time. But he reported, and it's really a public service announcement. And I just emailed it to my database, and put it on the social media platforms. But this gentleman listed out, per the FBI, and when they say that now, it has some standing because Kash Patel is the head of the FBI. You can throw darts at Kash if you want. You can say all the things you want about Kash Patel. I've met him many, many times. We interviewed it at AMP. That doesn't mean I have inside information. and I don't want to sound like George Bush, but I looked in his eyes and I saw a good man. But Kash Patel, in my opinion, is with us. He's been in Trump's inner circle for a long, long time in many high-powered areas. So this gentleman's reporting FBI and DHS as source. He listed all the cities current for this month of March, what level of threat and concern people in these locations, including Tampa, Florida, got a lot of friends there, um, need to be aware. And it was pretty concerning. So the sleeper cells are here. You know, the uh, Joe Biden, that wasn't Joe Biden for anyone who's done the homework, but the auto pen presidency, 4 years, allow 20 something millions in here. While we're getting them out, the sleeper cells are funded, armed, ready to rock and roll. And so people need to pay attention. But I do believe the ABS will happen. I did an article on it defining, not speculating when and all that other noise, but defining its origins, what it is, how it works, the legality of it, how many countries, which devices, all of that. I believe it's coming. In my opinion, before June. And it will serve us really well. And I'm in the same camp that says, the airwaves on all devices in over 100 countries. It's a global. It's not just in 50 states or 56 states, as Obama once said, because it was a Freudian slip because there's 56 Muslim states, but that for a different day. So anyway, EBS, in my opinion, will happen. It's nothing to fear. It's to be welcomed. It's what we're waiting for. They're going to show us things, unredacted emails, email exchanges, some live events out of Gitmo, some pre-recorded issues. They're going to reveal responsibly what we need and been starving for, to unite the world against the common enemy. And those common enemy players will be revealed, as well as instructions, where to go, where not to go, what to do, what not to do, like the old EBS would have done if there was a nuclear attack or something. Yeah, I think it's coming. That's my opinion. And I think it's needed.
Oh, most definitely. I mean, people are waiting for that.
Yes.
I've been
But they need
involved
to
in
be
this.
patient. Sorry to interrupt. They need to be patient. Please, people. This is some of the aspects of what we're living through has been a good and evil battle for thousands of years. Some of the issues are hundreds of years, some decades. And we're talking about 7.5, 8 billion of us on the whole planet. I don't know if it's a globe anymore or not. That's for a different day. But this place we call Earth that we live on, it's all of us. And you can't just flick a switch. That's what I'm talking to the patience of the people and expect everything to just get better. This is an enormous operation, and if not done properly, fails and fails miserably. That's why I go back to precision. I go back to God's timing. I go back to military and white hat intelligence. On a hunch, folks, they know more than you and me. Okay, they know more than the favorite podcast you're following. So have patience, trust the plan, God, Trump, military, white hats, and we the people. And if anything, stop throwing darts at everyone. Look in the mirror every day and wake up and say, answer this question. When your children and grandchildren ask you, what were you doing when the global governance was being thrust down the collective throat of America and the world? What is your answer going to be? You know what? Be a little less critical and get something done. Okay, that's my and I say that with love. Doesn't sound like it. My New York comes out in me, but I do say it with love, because where we go one, we go all isn't just a slogan. It's time to embrace your Democrat neighbor, even if they don't put their American flag out there like you might. They're starting to wake up. Now forget about the crazies, the evils, the lunatics. Let's put them to bed. But everyone else, they're going to need your help waking up. So help them.
Well, there are still a lot of people that have Trump derangement syndrome. I
Oh
mean,
yes.
I don't know how we're going to get over that with people.
Well, you're right. I would have thought the release of the Epstein information
Yes.
would have gotten us a little bit more mileage in that particular lane. It got us some, probably not verbally or openly expressed by those yet. But the reason, because I've broken this down and I addressed it on the panel, the psychological impact of the Epstein release versus the National Enquirer version talking points. And what I've come to conclusion at is, well, let's start here. The news isn't covering it. okay, mainstream. And the TDS people or the Democrats and these, they're still watching that stuff. Fox News, CNN, all that noise, right? They're following all the wrong places. So those wrong places are barely covering it.
Right.
And so that's one reason it hasn't had more unity result than I would have expected. But it will in time. It will become front and center. That's why the EBS, in my opinion, is so critically important. And again, it's done responsibly. 107 had reported that, in the war rooms, if you will, of the government channels where they met over these years, the military and intelligence people and the president and others, and war gamed this out. How are we going to show the world that almost everything's been a lie forever? And how are they going to stomach and accept all these atrocities? And how do you do it without World War III, without a nuclear thing, without people jumping off of bridges? And we've avoided, by and large, all of that. And what they reported, and they used AI and algorithms and all kinds of simulations in these war rooms and said, hey, I'm oversimplifying everything, of course, folks. It's above my pay grade. But Juan O'Savin, who knows a thing or two, they said they have to have at least 80% or more by certain measures of the population to be at a certain level before the next reveal or action step can be taken. Mm. So all of this is precision. Folks, it's way above us. People, doesn't mean we're not smart. We're just not privy. Right. Okay? We're not there. And so I'll take a slap in the face for this. I don't care. I've been validated and vindicated now. Most of the reveals have already come out of the stuff I've been saying for 30 years, called the conspiracy theorist. Mm-hmm. The folks, most of those conspiracies that I and many others have reported on, those conspiracy theories have become the conspiracy facts and realities of today. If you're looking at the release from the DNI, if you're looking at the evidence in the Epstein files, if you're looking at pick a subject, election theft, it's all there. But the problem, Holly, to what you're stating is the unity and the agreement of truth on truth. We're not there yet, but we're making progress. And this is, again, back to the EBS, I think is very important. And I do believe we'll be there. And that's what the golden age in part to me is. It's unity on planet Earth. It's abundance versus scarcity. It's truth versus lies. It's light versus dark. And that's where your QFS comes in. It has a lot more to do than being able to transfer stable coins in 3 seconds. It has a lot more to do with that. This is, remember, for those of faith, and I don't step, you don't want me to get into religion. That's for another day. But
well, why don't you talk about the QFS since you brought that up?
Well, I'm not an expert in this area either. I've been learning so much from the experts every week that I interview on a weekly live show called Global Financial Reset. Rob Cunningham, Will Barney, right? Retired Lieutenant Colonel Tom Lennox. Yeah, you know these guys. You're talking with them. So what I've learned from that list and a longer list than that is, well, we'll start it with the economy, the money. We don't have money. Everybody knows that. We have a Federal Reserve note, which is fiat, which is debt. It's just debt. And I'm sure by now, I hope by now everyone understands this. I used to speak about it 15 years ago all over Florida before I took it across the country. And I met with G. Edward Griffin. We hosted him as a keynote speaker at several conferences. We worked with him a bit. He's in my opinion, the biggest authority on the subject. Creature of Jekyll Island is the book everyone needs to read. Mm. Bill Still's work, The Money Masters, you want to know about it. But at the end of the day, for those that don't know, there's nothing federal about the Federal Reserve, and there is no reserve. There's nothing more federal about it than Federal Express. There's the sound bites everybody knows. They're all saying it now. I was saying it 20 years ago. So this is old news for me, but new news for a lot of people. We don't have money, and it was illegal, not fully ratified, and not constitutional. And this is all coming out. The lunatic Ron Paul, as everyone would call him. I didn't agree with Ron Paul in a lot of positions, but I supported his campaign. I met with him in boardrooms. I helped the Campaign for Liberty back in the day, because you get rid of the Fed, you can now begin to restore your country. If you don't control your money, forget about it. If you don't control your elections, forget about it. For your New York expression, hey, forget about it. New York money and information. Okay, so we're taking that back now. So the QFS, President Trump, by points of specifics, I can get into it another time. We'll just do 40,000-foot view here because you can see I'm long-winded. The Federal Reserve is going away, and with it, it goes the IRS, which was also 16th Amendment unconstitutional. And you can connect the dots on that very easily. How many times has the president said, we don't need a federal income tax. The tariffs is taking care of that. My economic policies are taking care of that. Dan Scavino follows up the day after the State of the Union on social media, abolish the IRS. All right, General Flynn finally coming aboard. Thank you, sir, for putting your muscle behind this. I've been saying this for a long time. What the Fed is, and it's got to go away. Flynn's publishing that now. It's happening, and Trump has actually made some moves. A lot of people listening to us right now might say they've already gone. Well, yes and no. Some people are still getting audited, so they're not already gone, but they're going to be already gone at some point. And that point is coming, in my humble opinion, much sooner than we anticipate. And thank God for that. So back to the QFS. QFS, in part, for Dummies 101, because that's the seat I sit in when it comes to QFS. But you know what? That's the starting point for all of us. Most of us have no clue what's going on because it hasn't been officially laid out for us as public policy yet for us to operate within. So, in my opinion, the QFS, first off, we're going to get rid of the Federal Reserve note. Mm-hmm. And we're going to replace it with a U.S. Treasury note. And keeping it simple, that Fed note will probably have a near-death experience, which we may suffer some pain in because those greenbacks are still in your pocketbook, okay? But at some point, it'll go down, and we will be launching, again, this is an oversimplification of it, we will be launching a gold-backed, silver perhaps, and other commodity-backed dollar. Why? Let's see. Oh, yeah, the Constitution states in Article 1, Section 5, I think it is, or Article 5, Section 1. Go research it, folks. It states only Congress shall have the power to issue and control the value of our money in weights and measures. Why weights and measures? They had to weigh the amount of ounces you had in gold and silver and only issue paper backed by that amount. Well, that ended in 1913. It ended further in 1970-something when the Nixon shock took us off the gold standard, and it's been a disaster ever since. So we're going to restore sound money. That's what the president is doing. And the Fed note will go into the dustbin of history, like most currencies do. They never last that long. History shows that. We've lasted over 200 years. It just never happens. So it's going away. And thank goodness for that. And we will have a currency. Now, I've asked this question of my guests, and I haven't got a definitive answer. And I guess it's really not important. We'll wait and see. Will we have paper backed by gold and silver like we used to, en route to the stable coin that President Trump talks about? Or will we just go to the stable coin? I don't know. You don't know. We'll find out. But leading into the QFS. So let the Fed note die, like the U.S. 1871 corporation is dying now. Let all that, and by the way, that 38 trillion, the majority of that 38 trillion of the federal debt is not ours. Elon Musk has stated this. Many others have. My guess, most of that goes back to the Federal Reserve as the last nail in their coffin through the bankruptcy of all that noise. And so, but that's a different conversation. Repatriation of wealth, what's debt, how much wealth do we have, where is it, all of that stuff. But back to the QFS. So you got to get the Federal Reserve note to die. President Trump is presiding over the bankruptcy of the USS Corporation. He's presiding over the death of that dollar. He's presiding over this whole global restructure. And so he's one of the greatest presidents this country's ever had. There's only one person I would take a bullet for, and it's Donald Trump. His life is far more valuable than mine. I know that's a statement people don't like to hear. But with me gone, all right, the 10 million collective views we had last month, they won't be able to see me. With Trump gone, we're in deep shit. Okay, so back to, pardon the French, back to the QFS. I'm not used to being a guest. I used to do interviews years ago. I do them periodically. I'm a motor mouth because usually I'm the host doing what you're
You're
doing,
doing fine.
asking a question and letting the guest speak. Rare commodity in podcasting these days. Hats off to you and your great work. So back to the QFS. We're going to get rid of that funny money. We're going to have a stable coin backed by all the things I mentioned. That stable, it will be the big, we were the dollar's reserve, world's reserve currency because of the Bretton Woods Agreement in the 40s, blah, 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 blah. All countries had to change to the trade in the petrodollar, made us the king, supply and demand economics 101. Okay, we're going to do the same thing in the stable coin. And yes, there'll be latecomers later because there's countries that don't have anything to do it. Good luck with that program, folks. And so what'll end up happening is we'll have our stable coin, which replaces what we know as our dollar. It'll be real. It'll be not fiat. It'll be backed and valued properly with God's money, gold and silver and commodities. It'll go into the QFS. As I've come to learn, and it's an ongoing process, when you hear cryptos, there's only 9 ISO compliant cryptos. And you want a little history on the crypto, it was a black hat DARPA operation per Wano Savin, who knows a few things, that was launched decades ago for sinister, nefarious purposes. And they were going to drive all of our money into it. And of course, Hillary was supposed to happen in 2016. But that command and control center I talked about, we took over that program and Trump became president. But had Hillary come in, we would have been all wiped out in the crypto world that they created. But crypto has since evolved, and now we have 9, the white hats are in control, of 9 ISO compliant cryptos that will facilitate, in part, the transport of money, getting rid of the central bank, getting rid of the SWIFT system, getting rid of the need for a brick and mortar bank. It's your life's energy. Who made up the game that someone can seize control over your life's energy? The taxation and control and speed of particle flow of your life's energy called money. Who made up those rules? Those rules are going away, folks. So you'll have the stable coin, as I understand it in the simplest layman terms. We will have our money in there. And that's where the repatriation of wealth comes in, and some of that money comes in and all that stuff. But back to your QFS. So now that's in the quantum financial system. So for example, and I'm overseas, I have overseas banking required every month. It takes, if you're lucky, 1 to 3 days, sometimes 3 to 5 days, even domestically. All the games the banks play, hold your money for 10 days, deposit the check, hold it. Oh, you can't take out more than $300. Who made up those rules? We know who made up those rules, and that's what's being dismantled. So the QFS bypasses that, restores the power back to the people, like the president said, with the military brass behind him at the 2017 inauguration. And that's what we're doing. It just takes time. So the QFS will allow, you can make a transaction. If you want to send me $1,000, you will click on your device, and probably 3 seconds later, I have it. No hands in the cookie jar, no borrowing the money, making trillions overnight, doing all this other stuff. No middleman. That's part of the QFS. Now, the last thing I will say is, when you think of the power of that, think of the drug cartels, think of the sex trafficking, think of the running of arms. They can only get that done with what? Money. But now they're detected. We don't have to blow boats up in the middle of the water. We don't have to eject people, drug cartel people that stole nations away from them. Venezuela should have been one of the richest nations in the world with all the oil they have. People are starving. Okay? So what I'm saying is, these criminals, they call themselves the elite. That's why Trump is dismantling these nations. Illegally and constitutionally, and people can go look that up or follow our work, it's all there. So what I'm saying is the QFS will, by default, weed out all that. And in my humble opinion, I take it all spiritual, because this is a battle between good and evil. It's not just a statement, it's a fact. And in my humble opinion, evil, demonic, Satan, Luciferian, whatever you want to use, that darkness is losing control of the reins. In fact, their hands are splintering with blood, to be figurative. and we got the control now. We're not fully there yet. We're not out of danger zone, but we are getting close. So the QFS will create a more moral society. It'll transform the world. And ultimately, I'm not glib, these things will take time, but the playing field on planet Earth will be leveled, not through climate change scams, but through doing what's right. Because these aren't just sayings, folks. We are moving from dark to light, and light is bright and light feels good. So the QFS will transform the world. But by and large, we think of it as a transport system, encrypted. See, so here you don't necessarily, your world is going to be run by your bank and your bank account. You are your bank. That's your life's energy. You're not going to be taxed to death. There'll be a restructure of tax, but very little. We'll see what the administration, Scott Bessent and President Trump lays out for us. But this federal income tax, that tyrannical thing, taxes and inflation, these things are invented
Right.
to control you. Inflation doesn't really exist. It's created by the Federal Reserve and the central bank system. There might be some smooth elements of inflation. I'm not an economist. That's healthy for an economy that's thriving. But by and large, those taxes and inflation will be gone. You will be in control of your money and your stable coin through your device. And that repatriation of wealth, folks, you got a lot of money coming to you. And there's going to be rules on that, and how all that plays out, we're all learning about. But in part, to me, that's what the QFS means. It's a quantum financial system. And by the way, um, AI is almost as all-knowing as the creator. Uh, because, and I'm saying that figuratively, but it's that powerful. And, the AI they've given us is like, child's play for what they've been working with. And and I have great concerns about AI for another day. We'll talk about that. But AI is also very good in a lot of ways. And what I'm getting at is AI is used in the quantum financial system. AI is kind of going to know who you are, what your thoughts on what your next moves are going to be. And so the money you're going to get isn't just, you're not going to just get it. There's going to be checks in place. And we'll all learn about that. I'm not sitting here saying I know it all, but I've learned a lot from people that know more than you and I do. Speaking to your audience, presumably. And so anyway, we're all in this together. And I hate to use that expression. It's got such a bad connotation, thanks to the pandemic, folks. But literally, we are in this together, and we are our brother's keeper. And I think the golden age is going to be miraculous. I can't believe I'm witnessing some of the amazingly good things that are happening in my lifetime. A few years ago, I said, you know what? I can leave this body. It's okay. I've written some good music I liked. American Media Periscope was a good effort. Work I'm doing today, I can check out of here because I didn't really like the world that I didn't see the light at the end of the tunnel. I see it now. And I'd like to reverse my thought process and stick around for a while and see it all come to light.
I agree with that. So, last question is the Republic, because we hear that the US Corp is, bankrupt and gone and they're undoing it. When, from the people that you have talked to, when are we going to see the Republic stand up and an announcement that we are on the Republic and the old corporation is non-existent?
I I would translate that to an official statement, if that's what you're meaning, like by the government. And then maybe you're also asking when will the people rise up, if that's kind of where you're going with that. Is that right?
Well, the Republic, we've always been told, needs to stand up and,
Mhm.
be announced. And
Yes.
we have not had that announcement. We hear it's, all done behind the scenes and they're running it parallel with the US Corp, but there's not been an official announcement. If there's not been an announcement, the US Corp is dead and null and void. So everybody is waiting for
Well,
that to happen.
it's a good question. I do believe at some point uh, in this journey we've all endured and are enduring, um, and will for a while. Some things are going to go on for months. Some things are going to go on for a couple of years. Some things, the more better things, the full transformation, the more positive transitions are going to go on for decades. And there'll be some challenges, but I believe, anyway, back to your question. I believe an official announcement will be made, like an official announcement will be made. Hey, you don't have to file these IRS forms anymore. Like there'll be official announcements about the Fed, official announcements about the IRS. There'll be official announcements about the U.S. Corp. I think there'll be some official announcements on big things that are going to require that because there's modus operandi that we all have to function in. Do we file this? Do we do that? What about this? What about that? All right. So, and then there's the Jubilee, and there'll be some debt forgiveness because of the legalities of mortgages and loans and banks and everything else. And our taxes, none of that's legal. That's why you're getting money back, folks. There is a system at play. But to answer your question, what you're saying, see, people keep waiting for something. It's already happening. The things you asked about are already happening. Let's cite an example. Dr. Jan Halper Hayes, who serves on the Department of Defense Task Force, whom I've interviewed a few times, recently, a couple of months ago, she went on that viral piece in Britain News. Out of nowhere, she came out, and that was not out of nowhere. That's planned, but seemingly out of nowhere for us, and woke those two Brits up real fast and laid it down. Every narrative that guys like me and Q people were talking about that were the facts that we knew them to be, taking all the arrows like Trump takes for us. We took all the arrows as crazy lunatics, tinfoil hat nutcases. That's why I go back to I'm vindicated and validated today. 95% of everything I've been saying, whether it's in song and book, in the written word, being interviewed, or running a news network, or doing public speaking, 95% of everything I talked about, figuratively speaking, 95, I don't have an exact figure, but you get my point, we were right about. So Dr. Jan Halper Hayes said, we're dissolving the U.S., Trump dissolved the USS Corp, said all of these things. People that have more authority and credentials than people like a podcaster. So it's already being put out there. It's just not on the front page of the New York Times. The reason why it's not the big statement like that is because we haven't fully disassembled that yet. The information, we're working on that. We can discuss that. Great things happening there. But I do believe the key things that need to be officially announced will be. But people, you've got to turn off mainstream news. We should have been incrementally doing that an hour after Trump came down the escalator. Okay? And I did 10 years ago. I mean, I don't watch any. Even as a child, I was questioning things. But the bottom line is the information, the people are standing up. The Q decoders stood up. The Q movement stood up. The MAGA movement stood up. We got our voice out there to the best of what the infrastructure allows. But you want to speed it up, folks? Speak your truth, share the truth. And one last thing, I know you didn't ask this, but this is so important, ultimately relates to the importance of your question. I'll give you examples. When President Trump said months ago, oh, Epstein, you still talking about that? It's just a hoax they ran on MAGA. Forget about Epstein. What do you do? And the MAGA movement, not me. Okay, not many of people, not just me, but a lot of people, oh, what's he saying? And then Elon Musk drops out the quote and says, Trump's in the files, and just lets that hang out there for a while. So the people in our movement, certain segments, what did they do? Jumped on Trump, jumped off the Trump wagon for a little bit. How could Trump? Same thing with Iran. Same thing with other things. Folks, you saw what Trump was doing now. Can't you see it? He led the left and the media and the Democrats to beg to release the files. Yeah, Trump's in the files, all right. Thank you, Elon Musk. He's in the files as the guy, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago that disbarred Epstein at Mar-a-Lago once he saw what he was about, reported him, helped get him arrested. He was an informant for the FBI, and that's what's in the Epstein files on Trump. So thank you, Elon Musk, for speaking that truth, that Trump was in the files. What did Trump say all that? He takes the arrows. He already knows the next move. It is 5D chess on steroids. He knows his people will come back, and many of them did. They're eating crow. Stop eating crow. Don't eat crow on Iran right now. You have to understand the modus operandi of the psyop that we're in and the information war that we're in. You got to be an astute Trump observer. And I will help everyone out by dropping this name, Derek Johnson. Say what you will about Derek. I get it. I know some of the issues, screaming at his audience and blah, blah, blah. You know, a little bit overinflated with himself. And I can say that because Derek knows that I stand by Derek Johnson. Because no one on this planet, I challenge anyone to present to me someone with a photogenic memory who has done a better job on executive orders, presidential executive administrative documents, the PEDS, the law of war manual updates, and any point in history he can cite, and taking all of that, interpreting it properly, and he's met the president a few times, and brings it to us to make sense of the confusions that we're rightly in. So, you know, if you just, you know, garbage in, as George Carlin once said, garbage in, garbage out, okay? You know, see who and what you're following, and then do your homework. Don't trust me, don't trust anybody. But follow the best sources, clean out the noise of the podcaster world, hone in on what you believe to be truth, stay with that. And then double check that as you feel you need to. That'll help ground you. And when a president makes a move that doesn't make sense, it'll make sense later. He's proven that how many times? Right. You can tell I'm a Trump supporter. Anyway,
wow.
We are standing up. We have been standing up, and the EBS will help. And when we get on the other side, I always think of Mel Gibson running that last scene in the movie The Patriot with that flag, slicing that guy up and going through it all, and then getting to the final bill on top, and Cornwallis had to go away. Okay, and you know the Republic was formed. Okay, great. So what I'm saying is, we have that flag now. We're at that scene right now. So stop being critical of everybody, and look in the mirror. What have you done today? Before you go to sleep, if you didn't do something, shame on you. And you can just be as simple as praying, which is powerful, or decreeing, or meditating, whatever word you use that brings you into divinity and the higher frequency. Love, that vibration. Remember Nikola Tesla? You want to know the secrets of life in the universe? Think in terms of frequency, energy, and vibration. So you know, rise up. Answer your children and grandchildren properly down the line. What did you do? You can just simply share the truth. Share this program. Share Holly's work. Share the work that you believe to be true. It can be as simple as that. You can run for office. You can do a lot of things. But seek the truth, stand for the truth, and expose it. And the truth will set you free. Well, somebody once said, and that might be a good place for me to pipe down.
Well, you have been wonderful having on, and a wealth of information. Love to have you back on again, and I can't thank you enough for your time and sharing with the audience what you do know and from who you have spoken to gain the knowledge base that you do. So thank you so much for being on.
You're welcome. Thank you very much for considering my voice to be perhaps of some value. Hopefully it's provided some value or inspiration to those listening, and that those that don't care for me, that's okay. It's your prerogative. I'm used to it. God bless everyone, and God bless you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Join JMC Broadcasting's monthly Global Defense War Military Panel. JMC hosts an esteemed panel of military experts, including Ricardo Bosi, Tom Lennox, Chuck Sellers, Michael Jaco, Derek Johnson, Brad Wozny, and other military guests. Join us each month, where this panel of esteemed guests analyze the current events across a broad spectrum of topics, addressing the questions and concerns that you have. Subscribe for free by visiting jmcbroadcasting.com. John looks forward to seeing you at the next episode of the Global Defense War Military Panel broadcast, right here on jmcbroadcasting.com.